Yeah, it's neither good nor evil. That the choice of whether something is good nor evil is that is like the moralism in which we put onto everything that we don't like, that makes it so that every single, this is a good way to understand it. So think about slavery, right? Slavery in the antebellum era in the Civil War era in the United States. So when slavery was going on, there was this idea of a moral objection to slavery, that slavery was bad, that we shouldn't do it because it's bad. It is immoral. It is abject. It is like it is immoral. It is something that is, it has a cost to us that we do not see on a material stance, but we see it emotionally in our moral fabric. That is made up, okay? It's not necessarily wrong, but it's made up. We are imagining this thing when we say it's wrong because we're doing it, right? There was another objection to slavery, like was John Brown, who was, I don't care if they're black, I don't care what they are. If they can become slaves, then I can become a slave because I don't have land. The only thing that's different between me and them is the color of our skin. And if they could become a slave, then I could become a slave. And so it's not about morals. It's about if it could happen to them, it could happen to me. Right? And that's when you start to realize the collective nature of when you separate yourself from morals, you are able to then allow yourself to unlock that duality and or dissolve that dichotomy and see things clearer where, you know, it doesn't matter if it's not about whether it's bad or whether it's immoral. It's whether it is a universal suffering that could happen to you, could happen to me, could happen to my loved ones, it could happen to anybody. So this is the thing that we were able to, one of the biggest things that like the dissolution of slavery in like the transatlantic slave trade, the dissolution of the transatlantic slave trade very much like signified like the very last remnants of feudalism that was destroyed, and like a greater degree of liberalization to the for the Western world where slavery was just not a thing. But all that did was it became replaced with wage slavery, with the felon, and with like having debt, and it just the slavery really just evolved to a social technology that advanced towards capitalism. Okay, there was a war that was fought over it because of a power struggle, but that really there was a that war was not actually about slavery. That war was about power. That war was about one side. The South was able to defeat, that was going to be able to dominate the North because they had slaves. So they were able to become like an economic powerhouse, and they didn't need to beholden to the North. It was never actually about like we should stop slavery from happening. It was about these people are becoming too powerful. We need to stop them. So, but there were people like John Brown and August Willich, who was a German communist who moved to the U.S. and fought in the Civil War. And he had a quote that was, we fight to end slavery to advance the cause of the worker more broadly, which means you fight to end slavery not because it is this moral objection, whereas like somehow black people are like somehow we have this connection to like that the thing that we do against our fellow human is something that we all feel collectively, and that it is a collective bond of this moral thing that we made up, this thing that we're somehow going to feel at some point in the future that's going to come back to us. It's just it's imaginary. Separating that from understanding that it's not about a moral thing. It's not about this imaginary thing. It's about something that you can experience, something that you can experience through your lived life, right? If you think to yourself, well, I'll never become a slave because I'm not black. Well, if you think of it that way, then you'll never come to that realization. But if you think of it as, well, I'm not beholden to capital, so I can easily become the same. I can easily become in the same precarious situation. So then it becomes you're able to reach that collective thought, and that's the thing about the concept of wage slavery, the concept of like the felon, the concept of like it's like we need. I'm going to get to the final point. I'm going to end it here. We need to marry the same way that John Brown was able to marry the moral objection to slavery to the material objection to slavery, which then came together. And even if it didn't, that wasn't the actual cause, that wasn't the reason that it happened, but that was what ended up occurring, was that slavery ended, right? Even though that the machinations in which the slavery ended did not intend to actually end slavery. It intended to destroy the power that was operating by using slavery, but never actually intended to destroy slavery. It still destroyed it, right? The way in which because that's like that. The marrying of the two concepts, the marrying of the moral objection to the material objection. Our political cause today, these are the only things that matter, is how can we marry these moral objections to material ones? And that's the wage slavery. The fact that, if you have kids, their life is going to be worse than yours. There's, if unless you are extremely rich, the life that you live will be better than the life that your kids live. And that really is a thing that is new to us, right? Have been constantly for the past like 8 generations have had convinced ourselves that the next generation will have better lives than we will, and that's not true anymore. And that in itself is the thing that people need to understand. And it's like this mix of wage slavery, abolitionism, climate justice, and land back. All of those 4 causes, it's like the four pillars of neocolonialism, the criminalization of poverty, the criminalization of being landless on stolen land, and the injustice of the continued destruction of our own ecology based on our own existence, because of our profit-driven existence is destroying us. We are metastasizing. Marrying those causes together and making people stop seeing things as moral objections, right? Because then they don't need to see it as like, oh, well, this is bad because it's wrong. Like, this is wrong. Instead, they can look at it as like the planet is burning. My direct survival, if not me, my children, and if not them, their children, will be affected by the decisions that I make every single day, right? Once you're able to get to, and it's not about whether it's bad or whether it's good or whether it's moral or immoral. All that matters is that there's a material change that can be acquired, but only until we acknowledge that there is like a decision that we have to make, if that makes sense. All right. That was a damn good conversation. I'm pooped. Thank you for the conversation.